China rolls out tanks, and America's legacy media rolls out the red carpet. Beijing flexes its muscles, and the leftist media swoons.
It says so much just to be able to see these images. I mean, it's a pretty striking show of force just to see them all standing side by side watching this play out.
Houston, America's enemies have a problem. President Trump is moving U.S. Space Command from Colorado to Alabama.
A place called Huntsville, Alabama, forever to be known from this point forward as Rocket City.
And Democrat politicians tell us who they really care about. Here's a clue. Not you.
I will not call the president asking him to send troops to Chicago. I've made that clear already. Chicago does not want troops on our streets.
I'm Daniel Cohen. This is The Daniel Cohen Show on the Real Life Network. Well, the mainstream media has reached a new low, and that is really saying something. The bias, the fake news, the ignoring actual stories that you really need to hear about, quoting anonymous sources to attack conservatives, the obsession with celebrities. The mainstream left media characterized Trump rallies like Nazi gatherings. Meantime, CNN, MSNBC, they're drooling. They are salivating over China's military parade like a 12-year-old girl at a boy band concert. I want you to listen to CNN's Caitlin Collins. Yes, that Caitlin Collins that President Trump called, remember at the town hall at CNN, a nasty person. She was just awful to him. But here she is gushing over China's military.
We're watching live pictures tonight, right now, a massive parade underway in Beijing as the Chinese President Xi Jinping is showing off his country's arsenal and military might to the world and to the more than 24 foreign leaders who are there in person attending this military parade. That includes those from Russia, North Korea, and Iran. In a speech just a few moments ago, President Xi warned that the world needs to choose, as he put it, quote, between peace and war.
Okay, so look, the left-wing media and Caitlin Collins, they just showed us something. It was really important. Did you catch it? That the left know how to be patriotic. They just can't seem to show any sort of patriotism for the United States of America.
China is strong, it can protect itself, and that Xi Jinping is the ruler of this country. He has just done a review of the troops in his presidential limousine, and now we're being treated to scenes of uniformed soldiers with helmets, jogging alongside tanks and other military vehicles and jumping into them. We're seeing drones on display.
Yes, this is the Axis of Evil reunion tour. Putin, Kim Jong-un, Xi Jinping. CNN called it a spectacular display. You heard the reporter there. Look, listen, if you woke up today and you're wondering how China's military is able to carry out any government's first sovereign duty to protect itself against any military threat, to provide safety and security. If you woke up thinking about China, I guarantee none of you thought that. You didn't wake up with that on your mind. The military's job, its number one role, is to fight the bad guys, kill the bad guys, lethality, but to provide a blanket of security for Americans. That is the American military. That's their first job. Not to wade into social engineering, trans, gay rights. That's not their job. It's not the job. Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, has set that straight. There is no other functioning structural framework outside first. First thing is to provide safety and security. If you don't have that, you don't have anything at all. Now, compare that to how these exact same networks covered President Trump's military parade in June, which, by the way, was a celebration of the Army's 250th birthday. And the incredible men and women who aren't conscripted in Israel, everyone serves. There, people do it dutifully, willfully, because of honor, because of something that they want to do that's larger than themselves, and their families that sacrifice, by the way, as well. But I want you to hear, this is just one. I could have picked soundbite after soundbite for you all day, of a foolish commentator saying America's armed forces, who, by the way, suffered enormously in low morale and recruitment under Joe Biden. He said they don't need a military parade. We don't need that. This is all about Trump and his ego. Play that.
The things that animate him about what he really gets excited about. It is about branding. It is about imagery. It is about kind of this nationalism. The fact that they're going to consider, or probably, I guess now, really have this military parade. We don't need a military parade. We don't need to spend millions or maybe hundreds of millions of dollars to do that. But we want to do it because he has to feed his inner image monster.
Yeah, it's about his ego. It's about feeding this monster. You want to talk about imagery? Roll it. This is the most embarrassing imagery of American weakness of the last generation from Afghanistan. This was Joe Biden barely taken office in January. This was from August, just a few months later, in 2021. That is an American C-130, and Afghans hanging off the wheel wells, waving for the cameras. Look at this. Some of them plunged and plummeted to their death. That's how that image America will never live down. Ever. When actual dictators, Putin, who's bombing Ukrainian children, Kim, who starves his own people in North Korea, Xi, who runs concentration camps for the Uyghurs, for Muslims, when they parade their killing machines through Tiananmen Square, where student massacre took place, CNN cheers. What a absolute, completely backwards. It's just backwards. What did President Trump say at the parade? He praised the military as the greatest and fiercest and bravest fighting force. Warned the enemies, if you threaten the American people, our soldiers are coming for you. Yes, that's the whole purpose of that. To show American might, to show American strength. I've been fortunate to cover 2 landings of Air Force One, literally standing on the tarmac as it comes down. You know why they do that? Massive floating city plane lands. The beast comes out, all the pomp and the pageantry. It's for one reason and one reason. Do you know what it is, guys? Do you know what it is? To show American exceptionalism and might. That's it. Same with the parade. I wish America's media, I wish CNN wouldn't call it dangerous rhetoric like they did. Not dangerous rhetoric. While also hosting the world's dictators. One more thing I want to show you. China unveiled at that parade the new DF-61 Intercontinental Ballistic Missile, ICBM. These are weapons that are specifically designed with the capability to obliterate American cities. American cities. Did you catch that? And you heard Caitlin Collins, you hear them, they're talking about this like it was the opening ceremony at the Olympics. And you're maybe asking yourself, what is wrong with the journalists in America? And I ask the same question. You may be saying, are they blind? Is it me? Are we? No. There's nothing wrong with you. The truth is they are not blind. They are ideologues. They are prisoners of the left's mind virus. They have it. It's in the blood. They hate President Trump. And they, even more than that, America's exceptionalism and strength. Even more than they fear a communist China or its aggression. When Trump says America first, they call it nationalism. When Xi demonstrates an actual military supremacy, threatening Taiwan, they call it regional leadership. They call Trump a dictator. While he's being investigated by Congress, while they completely weaponized the justice system against him, prosecuted by Democrat DAs. And I know you remember this, the mugshot. That mugshot. Oh, and one other picture. I want to show you one other thing. This image here, Butler, Pennsylvania, President Trump holding up his fists, screaming, fight, fight. He said that 3 times. Those 2 images, that's what President Trump, that's what won him the re-election. Because you can say anything into a microphone. Politicians, it's the imagery that's powerful. Those 2 images, powerful. Scripture says, woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness. That's in Isaiah. It's exactly what we're witnessing. The American media has become propaganda ministers for our enemies, treating our president like he's the threat. The media has chosen a side, and most of it, over 90%, it's not America's. And that's why this show, the Daniel Cohen Show on the Real Life Network, that's why it exists. That's why we're here. The media may love China's war machine. What about America? There's more good news. President Trump, Rocket City is ready for liftoff. Democrats are furious. We're going to get into it. This is the Daniel Cohen Show on the Real Life Network. Be right back. While China is parading its weapons in the street, President Trump is building American space dominance. Did you catch this? President Trump announced Space Command headquarters is moving.
A place called Huntsville, Alabama, forever to be known from this point forward as Rocket City.
Rocket City. There it is. You heard it from the president himself. It's going to help America defend and dominate the high frontier. That's how you talk about American power. Joe Biden wanted to keep Space Command in Colorado because of politics. Trump moved it to Alabama because of capability. Huntsville is home to NASA, NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center, the Army's Space and Missile Defense Command, Missile Defense Agency. It just makes sense for it to be in Huntsville. Now, Trump also announced that Space Command will help build the Golden Dome. This is America's version of Iron Dome, which we have here in Israel, which I should remind you, Iron Dome is a missile defense shield. It's a defensive mechanism and defensive weapon only. Why Golden Dome? To protect America from enemy rockets. The Squad, the anti-Israel radical left, who have been trying to defund support for Israel, defund Iron Dome. Again, it's defensive. The Houthis from Yemen, they fired a ballistic missile toward Israel this morning while we were preparing for this show. Maniacs who want to wipe Israel off the map, and Democrats want to defund Iron Dome. I pray that they don't. Don't vote for these people. Do not vote for those people. Golden Dome, same blanket of protection. Israel needs Iron Dome now more than ever. I mean, even last week, Iranian officials bragged that they could hit Europe and America. They said that last week, that they could hit Europe and America with ballistic missiles. And we have conservatives even in the media, and I'm not even going to name them, suggesting that Iran isn't a serious threat to the United States. It most certainly is. To Israel, the only democratic ally in the Middle East, and the United States, who they characterize as the great Satan and Israel as the little Satan. Now, it's important to go deeper. This is why we want to show you this, because this is what happens when countries don't defend themselves, when open borders and weak immigration policy converges. Look, this is Europe. I don't know if you've been to Europe lately. I flew through London. This is Paris. They arrested 2 Muslim teens that were plotting to attack synagogues and the Eiffel Tower, 15 and 17 years old, who've been radicalized by ISIS propaganda. Now, this is exactly the kind of thing that's becoming more and more common. Again, this is Paris, France. This is wild. That's anarchy. This is chaos. That is chaos and anarchy. Yeah, Daniel, but I'm watching you from, Southern California or somewhere in the Midwest. That's Paris or that's Europe. That's not here. Oh, you think that's happening only in Paris? Check this out. This is from New York. New York City that's about to elect radical communist Democrat Zoran Mamdani as mayor. I want you to watch closely what's happening, and then I'll explain. Watch this.
You dumb you! You!
You scared now? What happened? It's about stupid!
You!
Stupid! Stupid! Yeah, triangle Hamas! Yeah! Man, open your window, dummy! Open your window!
Watch out for the cop. Here comes the security. He's going to stroll right through here. Ready? There he is in the blue shirt.
Bro, if you're here for them, stay with them. If you're here for the
NYPD. That's an NYPD. He did nothing. Nothing. All right. Listen. So you see people, they're wearing keffiyeh. This is the same thing that Hamas wears, that the terrorists wore and wear on October 7th. They've got their heads covered. There's a woman in a car here that they're just attacking. They're provoking. She's just sitting there. The security guard, shame on you. A security guard, excuse me, he had an NYPD hat on. That's a police officer. Look at him. He looks more like a mall security guard. He's got a flashlight on him there, probably. No weapon. This is the important thing. Listen. Immigration without assimilation is invasion. I'm going to say it one more time. Immigration without assimilation is invasion. It's exactly what we're seeing in large cities. The Muslim radical presence there that's growing. It's festering. But it's not just violence. That's not it. It's the cultural invasion. And that's what makes the violence, and heaven forbid, terrorism possible. In Muslim countries, watch this. Watch and listen closely. Girls as young as 12 can be married to adult men. This is gut-wrenching. I have two daughters. I have an 11-year-old and one that's about to be 9. In Afghanistan, the legal age is 16. Forced marriages happen all the time. Watch. This might make you sick. This made me sick. We're talking with our producers here before we even decided to put this in a show. These are little girls under the age of 10 in a market in Pakistan being sold as child brides. And I should tell you, this is acceptable according to the local imam. Watch this.
5 years old, 7 years, 9 years, 6 years old. These are girls already sold into marriage, many too young to even know their own ages. 8 years, they're often prompted by their guardians. 6 years, the husbands they'll go to are a decade or more older. The last to talk is 5 years old. The youngest, in her father's arms, is a 7-month-old baby given in lieu of medical bills. The girls have no say.
That just turns my stomach. The World Economic Forum says that there are 117 countries that allow children to be married off to an adult. And if you think that that behavior will remain in their home country, maybe you're saying, why? Well, why would they do that? Some of them say it's the families are poor. They sell the daughter literally for money, for thousands of dollars. In the Philippines, a Muslim girl can marry at puberty. Think about that. 9 years old, maybe 10. In Tanzania, a Muslim girl can marry at 12. We just mentioned this isn't some ancient history here. This is right now. This is today. And what happens, America? This is why we're showing you this. When you import these kinds of values, when you allow unfettered immigration, when you allow the millions of people that Joe Biden allowed into the country, you get what Europe has, what we showed you, a parallel society that rejects the West, that rejects your civilization. And maybe you're thinking, oh, Daniel, that's not fair. It's not fair to paint all Muslims with a broad brush like that. You're right. There are Muslims who want to assimilate or who try, but the ideology that allows child marriage and violence as a political end, that doesn't magically disappear at a border. And that's why secure borders matter. A nation that can't control Who comes in? Who becomes a part of the fabric? Who becomes a part of the culture? A nation that can't defend itself from ballistic missiles can't guarantee its survival. President Trump gets it. Space Command in Alabama. This is another layer of protection to ensure that America remains strong enough to defend American values, the American people, the American way of life, which is under assault. How many millions of people did Joe Biden allow in during his presidency? Millions. We don't even know. We don't even know, but we're going to know now. Hold on. I'll tell you about the cameras in just a second. It's important that you know the why. Why did Joe Biden allow millions of people in unfettered? Why don't the Democrats want ID to vote? Why are they, it seems to be like, why do they tacitly approve people who, they can't guarantee are Americans voting in American elections, right? Demographic destiny. Remember those two words. The Democrat Party is reliant on allowing people into the country who are completely reliant on them for welfare, for their well-being, for the Obama phone. And they want them so that they can become a permanent majority. Democrats have a supermajority in California. They want that everywhere. If Texas ever turns blue, ever, it's the end of America. How would a Republican ever win a White House without Texas? Ironically, where are they constantly letting all the illegals into the United States? Into Texas. Trump's implementing a new video camera on the southern border, a new system. By the way, the immigration's been zero, close to zero. Here's a report from the border. Watch this. It's real short.
Going to be one of 5 surveilling this area. And when we talked with the acting chief, he said they're only seeing single digits when it comes to gotaways or people trying to evade. But for the Trump administration, crossings are 0 and gotaways are 0. That is the goal. So right now, these cameras, what they're going to do is they're going to feed live into the station. And if someone crosses illegally, agents in the field will get instant alerts right to their devices.
You build a wall, you build your defense, America, or we become Europe. We strengthen our military, or we watch our daughters become victims of an imported barbarism, or we start to see that start to become more tacitly approved of in the United States. It's not okay. There is no world where a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old, an 11-year-old girl should be married off to some adult who's 40, 50, 60 years old. It breaks God's heart. It breaks mine. I hope it breaks yours. Some of Israel's greatest enemies aren't in Gaza. They're in America. And they're Jewish. Coming up here on the Daniel Cohen Show, my message to my fellow Jews. Hey, I want to talk to my fellow Jews here for just a second about something that's deeply troubling. When Israel is fighting for its survival, I know what the Bible says. I've read the last chapter. I know what will happen prophetically, the future of Israel. That gives me hope. But while it is fighting right now barbarism, Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, Iran, American Jews are stabbing Israel in the back. Even those who need a step stool to reach it.
But these people are wearing masks.
Wait, Dan, who is that? That would be Congressman Jerry Nadler. How embarrassing is this? I mean, guys, come on. There's no, you get a couple dictionaries, a phone book, a chair, a step stool, something, anything? All right. This is the longest serving Jewish member of Congress, and he's retiring. But before he goes, he's doing even more damage and already has to the Jewish state. He told the New York Times that Israel is committing, and I quote, mass murder and war crimes without question. The same Jerry Nadler who spent decades, he said he was pro-Israel, but he wanted to withhold military assistance to Israel while Israel is at war with Hamas, with terrorists who refuse to let the Israeli hostages go. Today is day 698. We're coming up on 700 days of the war in Gaza. He's not alone. Bernie Sanders, Jewish, has become the United States Senate's loudest critic of Israel, calls Netanyahu a war criminal, is demanding arms embargoes. Here's Bernie.
Right now, what is going on is a slaughter, all right? These are the names of children published in the Washington Post today that have been killed by the Israeli military in Gaza.
Yeah, he said there were, how many thousands? He said there were 12,000, 13,000. We'll look that up. Listen to me. This is really important because Senator Sanders just stood on the Senate floor and lied to you. He ignores the fact that Israel's children were butchered on October 7th. The lie that he just told, he was holding up that stack. He said the Washington Post. Where did the Washington Post get its statistics from, guys? Where do they get it from? From Gaza, from the Gaza Health Ministry, which is who? Hamas. You are literally, Senator Sanders, repeating talking points. You are empowering Hamas. You are empowering the terrorists, people who want to finish what Hitler started. And it's not just politicians. These are so-called Orthodox rabbis. They showed up at an event for Rashida Tlaib. This was a prayer ceremony. Now, I'll tell you, I don't believe this video is new. It's from last year, maybe even 2023. But the point is this, as this war has dragged on for 22 months, they showed up to pray with a squad member who calls Israel an apartheid state. Such a lie. Those people that we just showed you, they think somehow, my brain does not, the elevator doesn't go up to their level. I don't understand. But they think that if they can appease people who hate Israel, who want Israel's destruction, if we're just nice to them, if we give the other side everything they want, maybe they'll accept us. I want to give you a news flash. They hate you. They can't stand you. Jewish Voices for Peace. This is an organization that's pretty much Gino. What's Gino? Jewish in name only. Who by their, not just what they say, by their deeds, support Hamas. They justify terror. And they spread the anti-Semitic propaganda. And they hide behind a Jewish name. Jewish Voices for Peace. This is a man named Gemma Pash at the People's Conference for Palestine saying, this isn't me saying it, this is him saying it, that the goal is to destroy Israel's economy.
But in addition to the student divestment campaigns, there's institutional divestment campaigns, there's municipal and statewide campaigns, including one we're involved with to divest from Israel bonds, which are a crucial pillar of the Israeli economy. We're looking to tank the Israeli economy.
He says it. They're trying to figure out how to best hurt Israel. And the latest campaign is called Not in Our Name, claiming that Israel's self-defense doesn't represent Jews. Another news flash, ready? The people that were clapping for you like seals, they hate you. When Hamas paragliders and when the Hamas thugs on the ground, when they invaded the Gaza border communities and killed men, women, children, babies, Holocaust survivors, pets, animals, anyone. They attacked the people in Israel living on the Gaza border because they're Jewish and because they live in the world's one and only Jewish state. Do you not see that? And let's talk about this, the deafening silence from Jewish Hollywood. Some of the most powerful people in the world in entertainment with way bigger microphones than mine. Studio heads, producers, directors, actors who have built empires for themselves. These are people who lecture you and lecture me at the Oscars, at the Golden Globes. They talk down to you. They talk down to America about social justice while they live in a gated mansion with security. But now when Israel is fighting for its very survival, when Jewish children are being held hostage by Hamas, terrorists, crickets. Barbra Streisand, Steven Spielberg, who made Schindler's List, the greatest movie I think ever made. My grandmother's a Holocaust survivor. 2 concentration camps. Incredible movie. I would think he would pick a side on this one. Do you know where Steven Spielberg stands on October 7th? Do you guys? I don't know. I haven't heard him say anything. Won Oscars. Highly decorated, known around the world. Built careers on telling Jewish stories, Barbra Streisand, Steven Spielberg. Made millions, hundreds, tens of millions because of their Jewish identity. And they did that when it was profitable, when it was popular. And now when it's difficult, when Jews are under attack, Israel needs voices of support. Where are they? Where are you? Where are you? When the history books are written about October 7th and about Israel's war to defend itself after the genocide that took place, your silence will be remembered as complicity. Some liberals may try to spin it as Jewish pluralism or diverse opinions. The scripture says, here's what the scripture says. This is the fundamental basis of our show. What does the Bible say? Psalm 137, it says, if I forget you, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget what it's supposed to do. Let my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth if I do not remember you. It's supposed to be part of your DNA, part of your makeup. American Jews betraying Israel is bad enough, but Democrat politicians betraying their own people and now being called out by who? Morning Joe, of all people. Why Chicago is a war zone and the governor there, Pritzker, won't let President Trump help. This is the Daniel Cohen Show on the Real Life Network. All right, let's talk right now about how Democrat politicians have lost their minds and their humanity. These are people who care more about their political career, their political survival, than the lives of the people that they were elected to serve. Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, who just made this sick, disturbing, what was he thinking? Just listen to this comment.
You get up in the morning and you doom scroll through things, and although I will say this, the last few days you woke up thinking there might be news. Just saying. There will be news sometime, just so you know, there will be news.
Just saying. He was hoping because President Trump hadn't been heard from in a couple of days that maybe something was wrong with him or that he was dead. Just saying. He got in front of a crowd and he made those remarks in front of a microphone, alluding to the news, somehow hoping it's going to come one day, the news of President Trump's death. Yeah, it will, Governor Walz, and my death and your death too. Let's just refocus the conversation. This is a man whose state just suffered a horrific mass shooting at Annunciation Church with children that were murdered by a mentally deranged trans lunatic. This is what you're thinking about, Tim Walz? The death of President Trump? Scott Jennings, the lone voice of reason on CNN, right on the money.
But I'll tell you who is a complete piece of I'm going to tell you right now.
There have been a lot of swear words at this table today.
Tim Walz,
okay?
the governor of Minnesota. I used to say he was the biggest buffoon in American politics, but it's worse now.
Yeah, I think he's both. And then there's Morning Joe. So Morning Joe, this show spent years calling Donald Trump a fascist, a Nazi, Hitler, a dictator, all the things that they say. Well, what are they saying about Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker? Refusing to deploy the National Guard in Chicago, where people are being murdered.
I actually think that J.B. Pritzker should do something radical. I think he should pick up the phone, call the president, and say, you know and I know you don't have the constitutional authority to deploy the National Guard here and to police my you can do that in D.C., you can't do that in Chicago. But let's partner up.
Picking up the phone and calling the president and saying, let's work together, that's radical? What's radical about that? There's nothing radical about that. Should I be worried that I'm finding things that Joe Scarborough's saying, right? Oh, he made some sense there. Yeah, he's right. Chicago is a war zone. Innocent people are being shot every single day. I grew up in Bourbonnais, just south of the city, just south of the South Side, where kids can't walk to school safely. But Governor Pritzker is refusing to send federal help because it might make President Trump look good. Well, what are the people of Chicago saying? What are they thinking? And we just found this on social media. This wasn't a news interview or anything, but it speaks powerfully. Watch this.
Man, they talking about sending the National Guard to Chicago. Man, I'm not going to lie. This is scary. This is scary. This is scary. This is scary. Send the Marines! Send the Navy!
You get the point. Let's talk about the numbers, because this is what's really important here, right? I can give you my opinion, his opinion, everybody's opinion. The numbers say this. Chicago, 80% of homicide victims are black. 80%. Black residents make up 29% of the population. Now, this might blow your mind. That's not systemic racism. This is a community that's in crisis. Where's Black Lives Matter? Where are the mongers capitalizing? Al Sharpton. Where are the marches? Where's the outrage? Governor Pritzker, who definitely, he is measuring the drapes at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. He is seeing himself in the White House. He can't wait for 2028 to roll around. And he goes for a walk. He's trying to raise his profile right now. You better believe it. Doing interviews. He's done more recently than I ever remember him doing. And he's being asked by a reporter about the serious problem, statistically, we just spelled out for you, in Chicago. And somehow he manages to blame Trump.
You're going to hear people, especially this past weekend, 54 shot, 7 dead.
Yeah.
They're going to say the city's not safe. Would you ask your friends to ride the L after midnight or after, 9 o'clock at night even to come down to the city from O'Hare?
Look, big cities have crime. There's no doubt about it. But let's just pay attention to what President Trump is doing targeting Chicago. He's overlooking red states that have much higher crime rates.
Trump said you better stop looking the other direction on this, and you gave him the Heisman. You said, back off, President Trump. We don't want you. We don't need you. He blames President Trump. Amazing. Just amazing. FBI says that 90% of black homicide victims are killed by black-on-black crime. That's devastating. Gangs in Chicago accounting for 41% of the homicides. 41%. But Pritzker and the mayor there, Brandon Johnson, who's has about the same approval rating as a pap smear or a proctology exam. Not something most people look forward to doing. I think it's around 14% is his approval rating. Sorry, to be blunt. Promise you we wouldn't hold back on this show, right? They refuse to admit that Democrat policies don't work. 9 out of 10 homicides happen in Chicago on the south and on the west side. And those are both, if you don't know Chicago, predominantly black neighborhoods. They've been abandoned. If you live in that area, if you're listening right now, the Democrat leadership, they don't care about you. And the worst part is only 1 in 4 homicides even result in an arrest. There's a system created where violent criminals walk free, and the victims here or the victims' families, no justice. They prefer to send in a social worker. You've heard them talk about that. Defund the police. That's who you want showing up at 1 o'clock in the morning if somebody's drunk or on drugs or there's some kind of an issue. Not the police, not people who are trained in that very specific instance, how to deal with a social worker. Let's talk about your feelings. No, of course not. It's not just Chicago, Los Angeles, Karen Bass. You know her. A city where homeless encampments are spreading, festering like a disease. Crime there is out of control. And she focuses, you hear her talk about what? Climate change, protecting people who are illegally came and who are illegally there. identity politics. When federal agents offered to help clean up the mess, what did she say? She says no.
Frankly, it is outrageous and un-American that we have federal armed vehicles in our parks when nothing is going on in the parks.
Nothing is going on. Governor Newsom, speaking of men measuring the drapes in the White House, the man managing the decline of the state I was born in. I spent over 20 years plus professionally working. Rolling blackouts, water shortages, mass exodus of business. When Trump offers to rebuild California's infrastructure, Governor Newsom says, no thanks, we'd rather sue. And this is what California streets look like these days. This is downtown Los Angeles, this video. How can elected officials be this cruel to their own constituents, to the people that they're supposed to serve? It's awful. They're consumed with Trump derangement syndrome. Anything Trump says, it's the opposite. They do the opposite. But people are paying the price. Families are paying the price. In Chicago, you just heard 57 shot over the weekend. How many? What was it? 7 dead in that walk and talk with the governor. Families are having to plan a funeral when their children should be planning the rest of their lives. American people, some are waking up, some still need to wake up. Wake up. The Republicans won't solve all your problems, but good gracious, they're trying. President Trump's expanded the tent like no Republican I've seen in my lifetime. He's at least looking for solutions instead of excuses. There's a proverb, it's 29:2. It says that when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. And when the wicked rule, the people groan. People are groaning in Chicago. South Side especially. People are groaning in some of these big blue Democrat cities. But God won't be mocked. Those leaders who are enabling that suffering, you're going to face judgment one day. And if not at the ballot box, the throne of heaven. I'm Daniel Cohen. You're watching The Daniel Cohen Show on the Real Life Network.